Hello, everyone. So far, I don't see anyone in the chat, but then again, let me go over here and start up the YouTube side. Maybe I'll see them that way.
We're good. We're live.
Okay, good.
You think this is good and bad?
Yep, I see people. I don't. You said I got to re-up my my app or whatever it is. We'll do that at a different time. Hello, everyone. Let me get everything started up here. Can you all hear me? Say something in the chat. Can you all hear me?
EMR, Gene Anderson, Amy Harrell, Pistol Packing Pilot, Neil Hahn, Jay Smokes, Mark Goshall. Good, thank you all for coming in. What's up, Check Stacker? Metal Matt, how you doing? And I'm crazy. Darren Ottman, Devil's Coins. Chew, okay. What's going on? Bello Forge says, yes, we can hear you. 5x5 by Neil.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. And I see some people popping up in the basement. Okay, here we go. So we have here on the panel myself, Frosty, Long Live Coins, Ian Everard from Arch Silver Gold Osmium, Pistol Packing Pilot, and there's some others that are going to be coming on board. So I wanted to welcome you all as members of the panel. I have invited Nick's Coins and Stacking Surfer. I've notified my mentor Yankee, although he typically, does his own thing. But that's okay. Everybody's been notified, and I want to welcome all of you for this live stream, now status post presidential debate. I want to ask for a few little basic ground rules. Everyone's going to be very, very, how do I say this? Very opinionated, which I'm grateful for. Actually, I kind of like it. If any of us tangent, go off topic, the rest of the panel is to pull them back politely, but pull them back, myself included. No major cursing, please. I expect a little. Let's not shoot the moon with it. No bad mouthing the stations like CBS, ABC, etc. We'll keep it to the topics at hand. And if there's anything that someone wants to notify the rest of the panel about, please put that into private chat, and you will be allowed to take the floor. So that way we can all get a say, and everyone can get a chance to do whatever needs to be done. And I'm looking in the basement. There's no additional people at this moment. Want to thank everyone for coming. Chew, South Coin Hunter, Coach's Magic, Anna, I'm Crazy, Kino Mine. The rest, Frosty has already said hello to for me and everyone else, Lisa Anderson. So let's have at it. We've just heard the debate, the presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, and the topics that they have been covered. So thank you, Happy Tiger, for joining. So what's your take on the whole thing? Who should we go with first?
I want to hear from Pistol Packing Pilot. I want to hear. I know he has very strong viewpoints on this.
Okay.
I think Ian as well, and Long Live Coins. You guys know where I stand, but I'd love to hear from PPP.
Wait a minute, me? I have strong viewpoints?
What's going on, brother?
How you doing, Frosty? Good to see you, man.
Doing well.
I don't know. Do you want me to kick it off, Tiger? It's up to you, man. It's your show.
Hey, you kicked on. I started finding you on YouTube. You're a good story.
Okay, that was all broken up. I'm assuming you said you want me to.
Yeah, kick the football, dude.
Okay. All right. I heard that. All right. Yeah. So I've got lots of thoughts. I watched the entire 90-minute or 2 hour debate or whatever it was. Shit show. Oh, sorry. I'm not supposed to cuss. Um, so first
Try to
of all,
stay away from
first
the F word.
first first of all, I have thoughts on. I said from the beginning, I feel like this was a huge mistake for President Trump to even accept the offer from ABC. I believe ABC. I know you don't want me bad mouthing the network, Tiger, but I'm sorry. I believe ABC was biased from the beginning. I believe that there were spots where Kamala got painted into a corner and they kind of helped her out and they didn't press her on certain issues. And they kind of did the opposite to President Trump. Secondly, if I were President Trump, I would have only agreed to this debate if she would have also agreed to a debate that would be hosted by OAN or by Newsmax or by a Republican network. Because let's face it, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, they're all biased, right? So as far as the debate goes, though, I thought, unfortunately, I felt like in many spots President Trump was chasing his tail. I felt like Kamala, unfortunately, was very well rehearsed and very well prepared. To be honest with you, I question whether or not um, ABC may have punted her some of the questions ahead of time. I know that that was one of the rules, that that was not going to happen, but she seemed awfully well rehearsed and awfully well prepared. And I felt like, unfortunately, President Trump was on the defensive most of the evening. That being said, I feel like he did. His closing remarks were very good. I felt like his viewpoints on abortion and the Ukraine, which I know is very near and dear to your heart, Tiger. I thought that was good. I felt like, at the end of the day, we just need the war to stop. We need the killing to stop. We need to end this and bring some, resemblance of peace back to that section of the world. Kamala, I thought, lied her ass off, for lack of a better word. She says that she doesn't want to take the guns. We know that's false. She said it many times. We also know that Kamala supports late term abortion. She danced around that question. She wouldn't answer it if she would support any restrictions on abortion. And President Trump was factually correct with his remarks about the former West Virginia governor, with them saying just set the child aside and we'll figure out what to do with it later. That is a form of execution. When you have a child that is deathly sick and having a life threatening condition, and you just say set it aside, we'll figure out what to do with it later. I don't know. I mean, in any civilized country, I don't know how you can say that that's not murder. So as far as I'm concerned, his remarks about, in his closing remarks about, um, why haven't you done it? You've had 3.5 years. Why don't you walk away from this podium, go back to Washington, D.C., and do it? What stops you? And we all know it's all just smoke and mirrors, and Kamala is just going to be the same old rhetoric that we've had from the walking zombie for the last 3.5 years.
I fully get that.
I disagree a little bit, but sorry for trying to upstage me again. I came into the stream late for a purpose. And my purpose was when Kamala walked on the stage, she met Donald Trump at his podium, if you notice that. And I thought that, if I was she, I would have met in the middle. And if he didn't come over, therefore be it. But I definitely would not have gone all the way over there and said, hi, I'm Kamala Harris.
Well, I thought that was actually just silly. It's for her to introduce herself. I mean, I'm pretty
Right.
sure President Trump knows exactly who she is without her having to say, "Hey, I'm Kamala Harris."
Right. So I thought that was silly at the beginning. And I felt that she showed herself to be unpresidential just in her behaviors. And that was one of them. I mean, it kind of was a symbol for me to say, look, this is how I'm going to treat the other countries when trying to negotiate. I'm going to always meet them at their camp, so to speak. I don't know. I just felt like, the hand gestures and the blinking and her always looking up at him. If you noticed, he looks directly into the camera the whole time and didn't pay her any mind. I felt like her shaking her head and saying, not true, not true. If he was really saying all these lies, then you don't have to call him out as untruths.
Well,
Just,
she's a cackling hyena of many faces.
and she did that at one point, but to say that they were for small businesses is a joke. I mean, they're not for small businesses. I think that I felt like we could see right through her on a lot of things and a lot of hypocrisy, saying I'm for the innocent, or I'm for the weak. Well, what about abortion? You're for killing children.
I agree with you 100%. We could see right through her 100%. What I worry about is the majority of a lot of other Americans who may not be quite as informed and do quite
That's what
the
we
amount
have
of
in every
research.
election, though, is it's the uninformed voter that they're trying to get tonight. But I thought that she positioned herself to look weak in her demeanors and to me, and then also with Israel and Hamas, or Palestinians, you can't ride the fence. It's either one or the other. You can't do both. And he was absolutely right. She did not meet with him in Congress. I thought that was very disrespectful.
I personally don't think either one won.
No, I don't either.
When you have a debate like this, the whole point of it is to gain new people over to your side. And I think all they did in this debate was really to strengthen their two, the people that already like each one of them, right? I don't think she made any great points that would get someone that was a fence sitter to think to move over, unless they had some major issues with J6. That's really the only thing she tried to make there. And for him, I think he does spend a fair amount of his time trying to defend himself, and that always takes. That's from a defensive standpoint versus an offensive standpoint. He did have a couple statements that he put out there, but they didn't really. She either didn't address it, or they didn't. The commentators didn't allow her to address it. But at the end of the day, I don't even think these debates really help move the needle at all.
So there were a couple of things that I noticed in this, and in looking at, and I'm not going to get on because I agree. I don't think any party won. But what I do think, if you look at the way Kamala targeted Trump, it looked like they had a very specific agenda to throw him off his game. They had, like you said, they had a very specific rehearsed set of variables. But the one thing that I saw is I saw a lot of deflecting from, and we see this every debate. This is nothing new. A lot of deflecting the answer. Neither on most cases, it was either defending themselves or defending on one end to how I would have made it better, or on the other was the social aspect of things. So Kamala always went back to the social, always went back to I'm the people person. That was her definitive bottom line. That was what she always defected back to. Case in point, when they were talking about the fracking, she didn't mention one thing. Her initial statement was, I come from a single mother, and went straight social, totally blew the fracking thing off. And so there was a lot of deflection. Now, I will say that on a couple of fronts, Kamala smacked Trump upside the head a few times and had him like backtracking. If you look before they hold on, if you look at the first break, before they took the first break, he was visually frustrated. And their plan started to work. Now, what happened is she backpedaled, and the lady, of the two in the ABC, the lady who gave the instruction, gave opportunity to Trump to rebut. She said, no more. But then she said, okay, go ahead. And he rebutted, and that gave him a little bit of whatever before they went into that break. When he came back, his demeanor totally changed. And from that point, he wasn't back on his game. Or on that point, she couldn't get him back on her game. Excuse me, I said that backwards.
Yep.
But there was a definitive goal at the very beginning, and I think she did very well at what they set out to. Now, on both sides, both sides told versions of the truth in many stories. When they talked about the Central Park Five, that was absolutely true. He did put out the ad, and the police still to this day think that they were guilty of the crime, despite the fact that they were exonerated. Looking at some of the information in here and looking at the FBI cases, looking at the specifics with the FBI cases. If you try to Google the FBI information and look at that report, it is gone. FBI shut that down because they were determined that they had removed. I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to read it verbatim because I want to make sure that you guys know exactly what it's called. They had removed a whole subset of larceny. And if you know what larceny is, if you talk about the general basics of larceny, you're talking about theft, stealing, robbery, pilfering, thieving, thievery, housebreaking, breaking and entering, appropriate, misappropriation, and percolation. All of those types of funds were pulled out of the FBI report. And that's why the crimes dramatically took a drop. So Trump was absolutely on point on that. And if you try to pull up that report again, big FBI logo, and it says it's unable to be done because the FBI had to pull that off. So in certain aspects, Trump was real quick to knock it out, but she was doing really good at keeping him off his game.
She tried. I don't think she did, though. I think his frustration was trying to keep his cool. I felt like he kept his cool like he did with the Biden debate, because I think that's what they wanted him to do, was lose his cool with her. I think they wanted him to lose his shit, so to speak, and he didn't. But I think that's a lot of that frustration came out because I think instead of her asking questions, she answered with what we were going to hear from Trump, not answering the questions. She was just going to tell us what we were going to hear him say.
The thing that I looked at, so I did a poll on my channel. I don't know if you guys can kind of see this for a second, of what the biggest issues are. Number one came in as immigration. The second was inflation. And I think he could have come off a lot stronger. And he started doing this towards the end, but it was a little bit late. It was in the closing statements. But I think there's more that could have been said about, and continuing to push it back on her. What are you doing to fix the border crisis? What was it like when he was president versus now? Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? You know, Reagan's statement. There's a few things I think he could have done a little bit stronger. I don't think he did a bad job, but I think he could have come off stronger. For her, she just didn't answer a lot of stuff, and the reporters basically, they do this a lot. They give softball answers to one side, not to the other. And so I think he was basically having to defend everything while they were making it easy for her. But the reality is, it's really hard in these debate situations to have enough time to really make your point. And the other person never has to answer the question. They can always dance around it. So it's always tricky. It's really tricky that comes from this. And so the average layperson out there is going to see a debate. They're going to see a couple TV commercials, and they're usually going to vote the way that their parents voted, or they're going to vote the way that they think they need to go because of their political party or other things like that. I think most people are missing what's really going on with the border and what's going on with inflation and how it's really going to affect their lives in another 4 years from now.
Yeah, I get that. Let's get a chance for Ian and Long Live to hop in on this. They've been the most quiet, so I'm going to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an honorary American, 5 years time served, second card holder. Love this country. Always have had a positive fascination for America. Let me just address things that I might have a bit more expertise on. Inflation. Definition of the abnormal increase in the currency supply. It takes years for that to filter through. So how dare President Trump lay all of the inflation now and during this present administration on the present administration? They're doing their best to make it hard for the next administration by creating trillions of dollars, not out of nowhere, but by stealing existing dollars. President Trump created $8 trillion stealing from all existing dollars. Nearly 2 trillion of that he gave to billionaires. That's not a responsible.
Can you explain that for me, please? where the
There's-
facts of this comes from?
So it's a monetary fact that the abnormal increase in the monetary supply is inflation.
Right. Okay.
It causes the cost of goods and services to go up.
Yes.
So Trump created $8 trillion extra dollars he added to the national debt in 4 years. That takes a
Inflation is also
while.
caused by the Fed continually printing money.
Who's the president?
It's not the
He asked the Fed to go to zero, go to negative. He was pleading for all sorts of insane monetary and fiscal policies to further his career. And we have the same situation now. The $1 trillion created every 96 days isn't immediately stealing out of Americans' pockets now, but in the next few years, it has more and more effect. There's a lag. This easy money, this deficit, the funny money created by stealing existing wealth from existing dollars, a lot of it goes into things where it gets stored up for a while, and then it gets released into the economy where more and more units of currency are chasing the same goods and services, so the cost goes up. So until our politicians are honest, and if they don't know about inflation, they're not fit to be a senator, a representative, let alone president.
But the Fed is independent from the
Bullshit.
from the office. I don't
Sorry,
know how much influence. Now, I believe there is a political party over another that has influence over the Fed.
There's a whole cabal, the owners of the Federal Reserve, who we don't know who they are.
No, we
They're
don't.
the people pulling the strings. They're the people who tell the government, the president, what they can and can't do. There's a whole level above the pay grade. And we're allowed the political party system, so we spend time arguing each other whether we want to be a donkey or an elephant. I mean, there's a clue there, isn't it? How ridiculous it is.
Well, what I know is right now the Fed says they're going to lower the rates in maybe next month.
Yeah.
Right. So what is that going to really do? People may go have more of an opportunity to borrow money. But what is it really going to do? It's going to raise cost again even more if they lower those rates, because we have no housing. So what you're going to do is have several people going to borrow money, and then our inventory is low. So it's just going to raise cost even more.
Well, there's two kinds of inflation that you're talking about, two different kinds of inflation. Ian's talking about the real monetary inflation that comes into the money supply. And what you're talking about, Nick, is price inflation.
Okay.
Price inflation is usually more short term. And it's actually next week that they're going to be doing it on the 18th.
Okay, yeah.
But in the short term, if you lower
interest
interest rates down, theoretically, if people have the money to still borrow in the credit, then you might have more people going to get a house, for example, and it could drive some prices up for housing.
Cars.
That can turn around very quickly if you raise the rates back up. What Ian's talking about is both administrations, and that there are facts out there that you can go read up on, printed more money during their terms. And so we've basically had about, I think it was 10 or 11 trillion dollars now, maybe it's even 12 in the last, say 5 or 6 years. I think, well, since 2020, it's been printed. $1 out of every $3 that's ever existed has been printed digitally. And that is what creates the real monetary inflation that's basically driving it nuts. I talked to Andy Scheckman today and did a live stream a little earlier today. And, he sees Trump as probably being in a better position to do a lot of the things he's hoping will happen. However, we haven't heard from either of these two candidates a solution that's going to solve that problem and bring us back down to the point where we can get rid of that. And at this point, I'm not sure you can fix it. We may have to revalue the currency against gold at some point and go to a gold peg or a gold standard at some point, which isn't going to be a simple, easy thing to do, especially if the amount of gold that we say is in Fort Knox isn't really there. Then we have a big problem.
I'm just going to interject there. We can, in this current system, we can never go back to pegging gold. It cost the US as a nation to peg gold at $35 from 1934 to 1970. It cost us 14,000 tons of gold.
Yeah.
Basically sold into the market, was in effect by redeeming foreign nations' dollars at a rate of 1 ounce of gold for every $35 foreign nations brought. And that cannot be done again. So I don't think it's in the power of the US, any collaboration of nations to, in the foreseeable future for decades, to have a currency backed by a fixed ratio to gold. Gold
I
is
agree with that. So there could be some kind of a peg potentially, though, right, Ian? Like you could have a percentage of the currency be backed up with a amount.
But it would be meaningless unless it was fully redeemable by anybody who held that currency.
Okay, but well, let's look why we were taken off the gold standard to begin with. It had everything to do with oil.
We were running out of gold, and we were paying for the Vietnam War, and we're paying for huge social policies as well. So
and also oil, black gold.
Well, the government wanted to spend way more than it was bringing in as income.
Hey, let me interject here for just a second, and then I'll let you all get right back into this. So I have both StreamYard on one screen and YouTube on the other screen. So I have to put out a huge apology to some people, because some people are showing up solely on my StreamYard that I'm putting up on the screen. Some people are not showing up on StreamYard at all. They're solely showing up.
I noticed that.
YouTube. And
Oh, the comments, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on, Frosty. You lost your voice.
Frosty's been trying to talk this whole time.
No, we can't hear him.
Well, no, the system, it wouldn't
There you
allow me to do it. I'm dual streaming, Tiger, so I have a whole nother level of chat. You guys will be able to see it in the primary chat, but you won't see it in StreamYard.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm
What I'm
monitoring
seeing
both.
is,
I've got it taken care of. Yeah, I'm good.
okay, I appreciate that, because what I'm seeing is people in YouTube are not showing up in StreamYard and vice versa, and the people in StreamYard have this little flat oval thing with a dash in the middle, which kind of looks like the emblem on YouTube when you put something that's unlisted.
Yeah, don't sweat that. It's okay. Just ignore that. I got it.
Okay, no
And I
problem.
can't tag anybody on YouTube either. On the YouTube side, I can't tag anyone.
I did send you a text message, so please address that.
Okay.
Okay.
so to me, I guess I look at a lot of this stuff, and it's always good, better, best. That's what we try to strive for. No one's going to be perfect that's going to run for president on any of these things. And when you look at the debates, I do think it's a tricky and hard position to be put in. You're live, and it does seem to be biased in a lot of ways, depending on which media outlet is hosting it. You can run into those things. But I guess just to kind of finish back with what Ian was saying too is, to me, there wasn't enough conversation for my liking around inflation to really address that. And then the other thing that came up on my channel when I was asking people about it was the border. A lot of people are concerned about the border and, how do you fix it? And I think that's going to be a very tricky one to come up. And I think we got a few answers from people on that during the debate, but probably not to everybody's satisfaction yet.
We were oil independent when Trump was in office the first time. And that's a big deal.
The border was being corrected while Trump was in office as well.
Mhm.
Trump was building the wall. We didn't have the amount of millions and millions of illegal immigrants coming into our country. And now with this administration, we have more illegal immigrants coming in than we have ever had. They've stopped construction of the border wall. They've ripped it down. Trump was doing something about it, and this administration is just welcoming them in with open arms, and they're doing it because they know that a lot of these illegal immigrants are not informed. They shouldn't even be voting in this country, but they're going to come in
Mhm.
and they're going to vote. And a lot of these illegal immigrants, unfortunately, are probably going to vote for the cackling hyena.
Okay, I want to point out something here. Invisible River Ranch has made mention that he's seeing nothing. He lives close to the border. And I can understand that. And I'm going to interject a little bit on this. I live in West Virginia. You all know that. I work for a company that sends me to different locations. They have at least 5 or 6 locations they're talking about sending me to work ER. The most common place I'm being sent to is New Mexico. I am working at a little tiny hospital that sees buku amounts of bad stuff. and a lot of it is immigration issues. And I try to, while I'm at work, I try to sit on the fence. And but I do talk to the Border Patrol police that are down here. They're confirming almost uniformly that it is way worse than what is being shown on the news. So I have to agree with you from my asking of questions of Border Patrol in my local area that Invisible River Ranch has made a very serious point. So that type
Can
of
I
thing.
speak to, I'll just be honest, I'm not working for her anymore, but I worked for a senator, and she went down there and was down in Texas and was with ICE and with Border Patrol. And she said, is so much worse than we could have ever imagined. And the things that she described when she came back from that trip, she says the media is not talking about. She was down there, I'll say, with Ted Cruz. Matter of fact, she was with a Border Patrol agent that is from my state, but they live in Texas now. So she felt very comfortable with him, and he felt very comfortable with her, and speaking frankly on what was going on at the border. And basically, she came back with a blank look on her face, and she says, "We have no idea how bad it is down there."
I agree.
And that is from a senator's perspective. This about 6 months ago.
I can agree with you because I'm talking to this Border Patrol in the area I work in, but I'm sure Invisible River Ranch is going to confirm from his area. And the thing is that this is an invasion. In my personal opinion, the war in Ukraine, the war in Israel, the Border Patrol war is all an integrated problem that we're dealing with. But I'm going to hop off subject for just a second. We have a panel member who's said nothing, so I'm going to invite Long Live Coins to hop in, say his piece. By the way, I'm going to reiterate a couple things before Long Live starts off. If you all have something you want to say and someone else is talking, I'm monitoring private chat. I'm also monitoring my cell phone. Feel free to tell me you want to hop in. I'll make sure that you get the floor, and that way we're not over talking each other. I really appreciate you, Pistol Packing Pilot, for holding off on the serious bad words. I love you, man.
Either that, he's going to pay in my swear jar.
You have no idea how hard it is for me to do this.
I was about to say,
I was wondering about that. I thought he did a good job too.
You know those big jugs that the cheesy poofs come in? That's what you'd need with Pistol Packing Pilot. Yeah.
Well, if anyone drops the big ones, please feel free to put a super chat in there.
Well, I actually had a swear word in my commentary, and it was the F word. Can you imagine that?
Are you related
so
to PPP?
When you're ready, I'll give you that one line.
Nick, if you use that word, you have to do like a $200 super chat to Tiger.
Because you know that I don't use that type of language. So when I say it, I really meant it. So because that's not in my normal language.
Maybe for every time I slip up and drop an F-bomb tonight, there needs to be $100 super chat made out to Tiger.
So I'll just give you my little F word quote right here. So, but I'll say F word, or I don't know if I can. So she was talking about flattery and how he did favors for other people, but then I wanted to say she ate her way up to the top.
Well, that's why she's called Hills Up Harris.
Right. So I wanted, so when she was talking about flattery and favors, that's what I was thinking. But you literally, okay, I'm all done. Sorry, I had to give my F word.
Frosty, member for 5 months. Actually, he was my very first member, followed by the wife, who was a little mad that she wasn't the very first member, but Frosty helped me get it all set up. Also, he has gifted a lot of people some memberships. I'll call them out real fast. Chad's Wolf, I can't say the rest of it. Invisible River Ranch, MR, Darren Oatman, UFO, Jackalope, Joseph Lopez, L. Vote for Pedro. Nice to see you here. Hi, I'm Mrs. PPP. So I'm going to hand the floor over to the most quiet one of us all.
First time.
Go ahead, Long Lived.
All right. Well, thank you, Tiger. So I want to say, if I say anything negative about Trump. It is not in support of anyone else. That's for sure. But I also wanted to start off by saying I agree with Pistol Packing Pilot on being surprised that the way they corrected him a few times. I was quite surprised to see that, and I guess kind of the way I view things, that's very telling to me. That a couple on the panel would correct as if they know the true answer of what was taking place, and they corrected President Trump several times. And so the fact even that they would chime in, as if they had the correct computer answer, and everybody just needs to jump in line with that, like they corrected that was very telling to me. And then what Ian said about the Fed and the owners of the Fed, and I kind of more agree along that line, that there's, I agree with a lot of what the Constitution says, and that's more what I was raised to believe in. That's what I think makes a lot of sense, a lot of the things it says to me. And but I think that we've already kind of bypassed, or it's already been taken over. There was, it's enemies foreign, abroad and at home, we're supposed to be careful for. And I think we've already been had and taken over a while ago. And that's my opinion. And I think in order to keep the people from revolting, they continue with the same system, just slowly corrupt it and change it so that we don't notice the true track that we're going down, as if giving us two different things to choose from, polar opposites of each other, but yet, all the time distracting us from what the bigger things taking place. So that's kind of more my take on the elections with things. So, I guess I'll just leave it there.
Well, let me hop in on this because I have a little particular issue on this. I'm a person who really watches patterns over the course of my lifetime. Little side note: thank you for the $5 super check stacker, just priming the curse bowl for any accidental swear words tonight. Thank you, Lisa Anderson. You rock, Tiger. Keep up the great job. Thank you, Lisa Anderson. Appreciate you. I remember an excerpt where President Khrushchev and Vice President Nixon went at each other. And Khrushchev was put in his place by Vice President Nixon about communism. And he responded to Nixon by saying, "We will take your country and we will start with your children." This has been going on for decades. We have had a warning from the exit speech from Dwight D. Eisenhower. I was seeing an excerpt where granted, it came from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., put out by his then running mate, where this information was then given to the new President Kennedy, who I think really tried his best to avert the big machine that's behind our country, really running it. And I think that has led to his assassination. So I do have a conspiracy theory mentality because of the information I've been given. So I understand where you're coming from, Long Lived, and you, Ian, and I know where everybody else is coming from. But if we're going to look at the big picture, let's look at the entire big picture. So there you go. And if I want to point out, I'm not letting just one side voices show up on the screen. I'm giving both sides an opportunity to say their piece, whether I agree or disagree with you all. So I just wanted to point that out to you, that I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment. I'm sorry, the First Amendment, and giving everyone a chance. So enough said. Please continue.
Yeah, no, that was pretty much what I it was funny that I thought one of the things that they interrupted him on, I thought was kind of funny, because I don't know if you guys had seen it, but there was a video out last night that happened to pop up on my YouTube stream, and it was about foreigners eating people's pets.
Oh, I saw that. Not only did I see that, I watched this one guy, Fanfare with Barry Cunningham, and he had a big thing on it 1 or 2 nights ago about it. I mean, I have to admit that, it's really sick that they're eating people's pets and ducks that are swimming in the pond and all that. Although I do have to admit the way that Barry Cunningham was expressing himself made the eating of cats really funny, but that's just the way he speaks. But it's not funny.
Yeah, well, I was just going to point out about that. I think that, like, at this point in time, like, if some of the false flags that I believe to be false flags are false flags, we need to be careful. Everybody says this, but it's so true. We need to be careful what we're taking for being real or not. I knew when I watched that video that there could definitely be some fraudulent play at hand here. And then here today to hear them come back at Trump and say, no, we talked to the how did they know to go out and talk to some who was it? The town clerk, I was town clerk, but some head guy of this town that no, there was no, we know of none of that.
So I got an answer for
It's
that.
the mayor. Yeah.
Well, no.
It was the city
So-
manager.
City manager, yeah.
City
whatever.
manager,
the
yeah.
city manager. But if you look at the last discussion that Trump had August 19th and August 21st, if you look at the discussions that were had, his rallies, some of the stuff that he talked politically, what they did, and they did this on almost every front, when they challenged him, they went back. If you look at CNN, you'll see it on CNN. If you look at CNBC, you'll see it on CNBC. And look at the fact check on those items. Every one of those elements that were in those questions were listed in the CNN and the CNBC fact check lists. So if you do CNN fact check and you pull those items up, they already knew where Trump's stance was on it. So they were combating that comment. So they had staged. This is why I said, when you look at the beginning of it, it seemed like a staged set to throw him off his game. Now, there were questions to the opposite that played in Trump's favor. So do I think that they were targeting him specifically? I think this was it leaned one direction. We'll just say that. But if you look at the answers they responded to, they were in response to the August 19th and the August 21st Trump discussions that had been of what he said in the previous one, and that's how they framed their answers. I can tell you exactly where they came from. I will post an exact example here talking about NATO. I'm going to throw these two in chat. You guys can pull these up, and you will see these are CNN fact checks. They are exact. And I pulled up a couple of these before the stream because I wanted to see if these things would come up, and they absolutely did. So I believe a lot of these were staged based off of information, based off of answers he had given before, and they wanted to catch him in what they believed might be misinformation. So again, I think a lot of this leaned a specific direction, but I think in most fronts, I think that the questions were fairly fair. A lot of people may not agree with me, but I think that they gave opportunities both ways to answer.
I thought it was odd that there was no audience this time. I thought that was a little, suspect. I'm sure they did it to not have interruptions and whatnot, but I don't know. I thought, presidential debates is in front of crowds, isn't it? I don't know. I just thought it was kind of odd. And they held it at the Constitution Center. Like, as we destroy the Constitution, we're going to do it from the Constitution Center. Or I found that, I don't know. I don't know where I've never heard of that before, but I don't know.
Ian, what were your thoughts on the fact that there was no audience?
Well, I was listening to it. I was doing a bit of work, putting a roof on a porch at home. So I was listening to it on the truck radio. For me, it didn't make any difference. I think Trump likes an audience. He likes to appeal to a very primal instinct. He's very good at doing that. I think he plays on a certain percentage of Americans who are, how do I put it, not critical thinkers. So I think that hurt him in this debate. He's very good at arousing animal instincts in a crowd. But overall, I don't think I learned anything. You know, any questions that, you know, I mean, he was asked about the 2020 election, which he had recently said he lost. Now, all he said about that was, oh, he was being sarcastic. He won it. So that did anybody learn anything new from either of them? I don't, there was nothing, was there? There was no.
Nope.
Most
You know?
most of us probably didn't learn anything new because majority of us have already done a tremendous amount of research and
Right.
formed our opinion. But as far as the everyday average Joe Blow American who may or may not be very interested in politics, I think the average American is going to think it was an absolute, can I say that word again? Turd show. How about a turd show? We'll go with turd show. And the whole deal about the eating of the pets, I mean, like, the memes have already started dropping with Elf having a cat in between a hoagie roll. So I mean, there were thoughts where I thought this whole entire debate went off the rails. But one thing that Kamala did say that really irritated me was she challenged Americans to go to a Trump rally. Well, guess what? I've been to a Trump rally. In fact, I was at the one in Miami, which was the rally that occurred right before the assassination attempt on President Trump. And I can tell you, it was single-handedly one of the most amazing, most patriotic experiences of my life. The energy and the patriotism that I felt at that Trump rally, and the camaraderie, and no, nobody left early. I mean, she lied through her ass all night. Oh, sorry, someone give him a super chat. Sorry about that. She lied through her butthole all night long, and I can tell you that people, including me and the group of people I was with, were in line at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, and we were in the group of the first 100 people that got in. We were in the 6th row from President Trump from the front. And I can tell you that nobody, and I mean nobody, left early. There were tens and tens of thousands of people there, and there was nothing negative. Everybody was friendly, everybody was sincere. It was amazing. And then the fact that she said Donald Trump is trying to destroy the Constitution. I mean, where does she get off doing that? She's talking about wanting to ban so-called assault weapons. First of all, assault's behavior. It's not a type of gun. It's a semi-automatic rifle. And I can't speak with authority on this because, Tiger, you know this is my area of expertise.
True.
It is a semi-automatic weapon that functions no different than any other semi-automatic hunting rifle. The only difference is the aesthetics. So so you put a pistol grip on it. Well, a pistol grip is like a molded piece of plastic that costs $9.99. And you put on a holographic sight. Well, you can put that onto any handgun. So all of these aesthetics, the barrel shroud, well, that's so you don't burn your hand, right? I mean, all of these aesthetics is not something that changes the function of the firearm. And this is what Democrats keep playing on. They keep playing on that these bullets are spraying out at 60,000 million, billion, trillion bullets per second. And that's just simply not possible. What an AR-15 is it's the equivalent of putting the body of a Lamborghini onto a Pinto. Now I'm showing my age because I mentioned the word Pinto. They don't work. Or how about a Duster? Now I'm really showing my age.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
a Chevy
my dad had
Chevette.
a Gold Duster.
I don't know any of those cars you're talking about.
Oh, dear
surprised you
God,
didn't
I'm
go
in trouble.
Gremlin.
Okay. So how about
I
a
really
Chevy
don't.
Chevette? You're putting a Ferrari body onto a Chevy Chevette. You're essentially putting lipstick on a pig. It doesn't function
Nick doesn't
any
know that one
differently.
either. You're going to have to go for something else more recent.
A Dachshund. You know what a Dachshund is?
Adult?
It doesn't change the function of the fire. Yet she wants
I know
to
what he's
ban.
talking about though, because I know guns. So I know you didn't have to use the analogies. I know guns. So
So
But-
Kamala
what a
wants to
lightsaber is?
ban these so-called assault weapons, and she knows damn well that it is just like any other semi-automatic rifle. The difference is that she does want to take guns away from the American people. She does want to we know it's a slippery slope. She does want to
It is.
nickel and dime us until all we're left with is revolvers, or worst case scenario, God forbid, flintlock muskets. I mean, I'm sure the Democrats would be very happy about that. And you know, I'll be honest with you, Tiger, you know I'm a pilot. You know that I've been flying for decades. And long before I flew for the airlines, I flight instructed. And let me tell you something. I used to flight instruct a lot of Chinese students. And I was flying one day, this is over 20 years ago, but it's stuck in my head and I remember it and I will never forget it. I was flying with this Chinese guy and I said, you know, in his broken English, of course, I said, if there's one thing that you could change about your country, what would you change? And he said to me, you know what I would change? He said, I would change the fact that we don't have a Second Amendment because we have no way to fight. We're nothing but slaves. And that is where we are headed if she gets into office.
Let me hop in on this on two things. One, history will repeat itself. If you look at ancient Okinawa, the then, I guess you would call him king of Okinawa, did not like his citizens having bladed weapons. He took away all the bladed weapons. A few years later, Japan invaded and took over. So that's point number one. Point number two I want to bring up is she brought up the whole topic about the government being the only source of health insurance. That, my friends, is socialized medicine. And let me tell you, socialized medicine doesn't work. Why do you think people leave their countries to come here to get things done? And
that's just Canada. I live in Maine. And do you know how many Canadians come down to get our health care?
I believe that. But the thing,
I mean, it's in droves, especially cancer treatments. I mean, they flood the border to come in and go see our doctors, which I don't blame them.
Let me put it to you this way. You cap a doctor's ability to earn money. He's going to shut the door as soon as he reaches that cap. He's not going to see any more. And then they're going to start flooding into the ERs, which they already do ridiculously, but they do. And our healthcare system goes through the roof because they're not coming in for emergencies. They're coming in for convenience. And we're not even allowed to tell them that this is a reason to go see your family doctor because we might lose our jobs. Trust me, this is my profession. So I want to point that out, that this woman, in my opinion, is highly dangerous. She is hurting our country in a multitude of different ways, including now socialized medicine. She is a communist. Tovarish. Remember this, my friends. Tovarish. That is Russian for comrade.
Can I interject on the whole healthcare issue? I think I got some valuable input.
Go ahead.
Growing up in England, we have a free at the point of need healthcare system. It's paid by taxation. It's good, bad, and ugly, but there's many good things for it. I've had many conversations with my dad. He remembers when it was introduced after the Second World War. He remembers a collective sigh of relief that people knew they could go to a doctor without having to pay a shilling, 12 pence, because a lot of people didn't have 12 pence. So a minor illness could develop into something major and could kill or permanently maim people. So my dad personally remembers the relief that the majority of the population felt when there was a socialized healthcare system brought in. So I feel very passionately about there's a better way than America's doing it way better. I'm not saying the socialized method is the best way, but what do you do for your house? You insure it in case it burns down. For your car, you insure it against you crash it and ride it off or somebody crashes into it. and
No,
you share that cost with all other car owners or house owners. You hope you're never going to have to claim, but if you claim, everybody else who's not claiming, their insurance premium goes to pay for your new car or your new house. So if you can do it for a car or a house, why can't we do it for people? It's ridiculous to say that it's impossible to do. Personally, my younger brother, had a catastrophic brain tumor, and he was diagnosed with 14 months to live after surgery to take it out. If we'd been in the American system, our whole family would have been bankrupted with the care and surgery he needed that gave him another 14 months of life.
That's not entirely true, because we have a current set of laws that when people go to a not-for-profit institution, when the CEO and CFO of that hospital then presents all that data to the government, and Frosty, I'm going to need your help on this. There's I think it's called the Hill-Burton Act, that basically tells the government to reimburse these hospitals so they don't go belly up. I'm almost positive it's the Hill-Burton Act. So they're not getting turned down. In fact, what I see here in New Mexico is a lot of Mexicans driving across the border and getting free health care at our expense. And I'm certainly not one to turn someone away. That's not the way I've been raised. But it's still a system where we are taking on other people's financial burdens, which is adding to the whole problem. By the way, thank you, Metal Matt, for your $5 super chat. Thanks to the panel for doing this show. You're a credit to the community, professional, civil, and fun. Thanks, Lisa Anderson, for modding like crazy. Yes, thank you, Lisa Anderson. I appreciate you so much. Okay, I've said enough. Next.
No, I want to address about the Canadian thing. I didn't say Canadians were coming here being illegal aliens and that we needed to build a wall. I was just making the statement that they do come down here because our medical care is better, they say. I'm not saying that. I saw in the chat as well that they're coming here to take the white man's job. Are you kidding me? They come here for a few days and then they go back across the border. It was just an example to show that they feel, the ones that are coming over, they feel our medical care is better, or they're able to get it faster, because a lot of times they have to wait for treatment. As Tiger said, in some instances they can't wait. So
I will give you guys know that I work in the medical field as well, and I work in medical management and policy. So Tiger and I have had a lot of discussions, and I'll tell you, when it comes to healthcare, one discussion you don't want to argue with Tiger in, because 99% of the time he's going to be right. One thing is, if you look at social medicine and you relate it to what we have in the VA healthcare,
Whatever.
the reason that the VA healthcare is struggling the way that it is because, number one, they're overworked. They have too many people. The doctors are glorified data entry people. They are allowed 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending upon their allotment of patients for that day, to provide quality care, which means they have to review the chart, work with the nurses, work with the techs, identify what's going on. And then they get maybe 3 to 5 minutes face-to-face time of real genuine healthcare to tease out of somebody who may or may not be health oriented, to understand things like their medications, their management, their food, their dietary intake, their recent labs. What do they do? What did they eat? And a lot of people don't know what to ask. And they hear from their Aunt Sally on Facebook that this is what's going on. The problem is the VA's purging good quality professionals because they don't pay them. In a socialized healthcare setting here in the United States, what we'll see is a lot of professionals. And I can tell you, because I know 100 docs who walked out of their position and taken money market positions. They've done other jobs. They've become, I actually know 2 docs who become pilots, that have left the medical profession because they're moving towards this and they cannot make money. And now, granted, is it a thing where there are physicians out there who care less about making money and care more about taking care of the people? Yes, there are, but they're far and few between, because you know what? A doc has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not bordering millions of dollars worth of schooling costs and different things that they have to do in insurances. There's so much money involved in maintaining a practice that even with a partnership, trying to run a hospital, trying to run a specialty clinic, there is so much money that has to be paid out for equipment and medications and things of that nature that a lot of doctors work their tails off for not as much money as many people think. And so if you take away and say you have to see 60 to 70% of increase in patients, but you're going to be making more or the same or even less, you're going to have people walking out of those professions. And we're going to be left to those medical professionals who get C's. And that's what our healthcare is going to be. And that's not the kind of provider I want. So I don't mind paying a little bit more to do that, but I definitely now, granted, I get pretty good care at the VA. I'm not complaining, but I tore. If you guys are not aware, 2 months ago I tore my rotator cuff in 2 places, and suffered a distension, a polyp inside my bicep, and it's going to take me an additional 2 months just to get into physical therapy, even in a community program, because it's tied to a socialized version of healthcare. I have 4 months of a torn rotator cuff before I can get treatment, unless I want to pay for it out of pocket. This is something that's approved, but you know what? They'll deny me if they think that there was ever any injury. Just because it's socialized and they say they can't deny you for previously existing claims, they can deny you on other reasons. Your health care at your work can actually impact what you're covered. So she was talking socialized health care and like, oh, well, you can't be denied this. Yes, you actually can be. So be careful, do some research, like go in, actually read the articles, read the elements, find out what's going on, because a lot of the stuff people just don't realize. But again, Tiger and I talk about this, and you guys don't know Tiger and I, we probably talk 20 hours per week regarding stacking, collecting, IT issues, primarily IT issues, by the way, but a lot of medical issues. We talk different patients and situations and what's going on. And so this is something that's near and dear to his and I heart. So again, if you have questions regarding healthcare and what happens and some of the balances, I can get my wife to talk about socialized healthcare in Russia and what a snafu that was, and what happened when the collapse of the Soviet Union. One day they woke up and her dad was a banker and had hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings. The next morning they couldn't buy bread. Those are the kind of things that we need to be careful for. Those are the things we need to watch. Now, I'm not a doom and gloom person, but we do need to be paying attention to these things, because every decision we make now is going to affect us down the road. And that's what I'm afraid of.
I did just to add to the conversation here. I think to me, this is about freedom versus socialism, or about communism, in my opinion. So I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'll just put that out there. I used to be a Republican. I left the party because I was disenfranchised from it. I didn't feel like they were protecting my beliefs, and they kept spending and getting themselves into more and more debt, growing the government larger and larger. So I've gone a different direction with that. I'd like to see a very, very small federal government. I'd like to see very strong state governments. I guess I'm probably more aligned with Thomas Jefferson than most of the other founding fathers and a lot of my beliefs. But there needs to be a federal government for a lot of reasons of protection, interstate commerce, to have these states function and work together. However, everything I see right now is federalized. I'm not for federalized Social Security. I'm not for federalized healthcare. And that's not to say that we take things away that are already there. They're there now. We have to deal with them. I've had to pay healthcare for my wife at $1,800 a month because we did in vitro fertilization for our 3 kids. And she got blacklisted. She would not be covered. So we had to pay $1,800 a month for healthcare and not have any. So I can totally see pre-existing conditions being a big issue for a lot of people. I didn't have the money to pay that. So we just did not insure my wife. She was uninsured for many, many years. So it's a tough subject. The reason I bring this part of it up is I think a lot of what we're looking at in society today is, do we go more towards socialism or do we go away from it? And there's good things that come from it. The fact that you can pay you can have roads like freeways that you don't have to pay a toll on it all the time, is socialism. The fact that you have the ability to go to public parks and national parks is socialism. So there's some degree of it that I think is very valuable for the society. On the other hand, when you start to look at more socialized programs where I'm paying into Social Security and I'll never get a penny out of it, and I pay a lot of money into it, I'm not happy with that. And so when I look at it, to me, I tend to be more of a right libertarian, where I want to shrink a lot of things. And I hope, what I see in the Republican Party today is a little different than when I saw when the Bushes were in control of things. But anyway, outside of the politics side of it, when I look at what happened in the debate tonight too, I don't feel like there was quite as much conversation around the consequences of what happens depending on which person's elected. And I do see some massive differences in policies and the direction the country is going to go towards. I think one is going towards more socialism. And I think the other one is going towards less socialism. That's a lot of how I'm kind of looking at it. But, to me, I have my own circumstances I've been in and how things have affected me. I tend to be super conservative fiscally, and also in my beliefs. But I work in a very, very liberal world. I sell software, and almost everybody I know that sells software is very extremely liberal, like San Francisco liberal. And we can have some conversations, and other conversations we cannot have because there's only one way or the highway with a lot of the people I talk to. But the one thing I'd kind of throw out there too, guys, is I think when it comes to healthcare in general, I don't think there's anybody here that wants to see someone that doesn't have the funds to be able to pay for healthcare to just die on the street. I don't think anybody wants that. But at the same time, when my wife and my child, who is having a really hard, bad kidney issue, had to go to the hospital and wait there for 10 hours to be seen, doesn't make sense either. And so there's got to be some better ways that we can put things together as a country to where we can help those that need the help, but also get better treatment. And that's why I think when I heard President Trump talking about, he's working on a plan and he hasn't put one forward to solve it yet. I don't think this is an easy solution to any of this stuff.
Not only that, he doesn't have all the information he used to have as president. So
no, but it's going to be a hard one to solve, right? It's not going to be.
It is.
How do you solve Social Security? At some point, people no longer have the health to keep working the hours. How do we help those people? What do we do there? And so in these debates, you just end up getting a lot of going back and forth versus getting a lot of, substance being discussed about what my platform is and how we're going to do it. And this is how it's going to benefit people. It's a lot of defending and jockeying and that kind of stuff. But
yeah. Well, let me point out this thing about this healthcare. You brought up a good topic about healthcare. Let me explain this to you. I get paid as a 1099 employee. Most hospitals will not pay a doctor a W-2 because they can easily get rid of them. They cannot have to pay any benefits. I have to pay 100% of Social Security, but even more so, I have to pay my own health care. Before Obama, I was paying approximately $1,700 to $1,800 of health care out of pocket, after tax money, out of pocket, with an approximate $2,500 per person deductible. Thanks to Obama, I'm paying now in excess of $2,500 per month with a $7,000 deductible per person. You tell
Same
me,
Tiger, but mine's 10,000 per person.
Do you see the point? Affordable Health Care Act, my big toe.
Isn't part of the problem?
Tiger, watch your mouth.
Language.
What did he say? Because I didn't catch it.
Isn't a big part of the problem though just the corporate greed in the healthcare and in the medicines and the equipment and the?
Well, that's not with the doctors. We get paid what we get paid. This is being mandated by insurances and government, and most of the insurance companies follow what Medicare and Medicaid do.
I see where he's going with that, though, with pharmaceutical companies.
But Tiger, doctors aren't necessarily paid by free market enterprise, right? Like, when I look at it, like, how much should a doctor get paid? the doctor should get paid the amount that that person that has that skill that's willing to go to school to work to get a certain amount of pay.
No,
right?
it's not free market. Let me tell you, when I had my own
Yeah.
family practice
Not free
years
market.
ago, I was a single doctor office in a town that had 2 or 3 multi-doctor offices. The big companies, Blue Cross and all of them, would come in and sign up, said, this is what we're going to pay you. So, but I know you're paying these other people more. So, no, you're not going to get any more because you're not a big company. You don't have the political leverage that these ones do. So if you don't work with us, it's no big deal. If they don't work with us, it's a big deal. So, I got screwed. I had a lady come into my office with the who was from Blue Cross, raised my rates. I was paying healthcare benefits to my employees, and I was probably the only one in the town that was doing it. But they raised my rates every year, and the last time they raised it 40%, not 14, 40%. And this Blue Cross lady comes on in and basically says, well, that's just the way, because you doctors took advantage. No, that happened long before I went to medical school. Then she went off and on. No, it's just the way it's going to be. I'm like, hold the horses. I'm driving around in a beat up old SUV that I was driving around when I was in medical school. And you're driving around in a brand new Lincoln SUV that your company pays for and you don't. Well, that's just the way it's going to be. So you're telling me that because I have followed predecessors that may or may not have abused the system, now you guys get to abuse the system and I have to be punished. Well, that's just the way it's got to be. Well, I'm not a racist person. There's not a racial bone in my body, but I call the facts as I did. She is an African American lady. So maybe I should be punished because my great-great-grandfather owned slaves. Should I be punished for that too? And she looked at me with her jaw hit the floor and said, you got one of 2 choices. You could either leave my building or I'll grab you by the scruff of your neck and throw you out. So, I do not agree in the way that this country behaves and punishes and punishes and punishes. But socialized medicine, I don't see where it's going to work. It works if you have small problems, like children being sick. They're great at that. It's great at the small thing. But if you got something big, you got cancer, you got a surgery you need. Oh no, you got to wait. You got to wait. And they tell doctors, well, you're only going to get paid this, or you're going to get paid that, and then they just walk all over it. Doctors don't control the finances. Insurances control the finances. And pharmaceutical companies control the finances. And durable medical equipment companies control the finances. It's not the doctors. And I'm sick and tired of people blaming doctors for the cost of healthcare. We have this much control over what's going on. This much.
But Tiger, to Ian's question then, is there waste, and are in the medical system, and are things more expensive than they should be because of some of these corporations?
But you say it was big pharma.
Say big pharma, say big hospital networks.
Well, when I was in medical school and afterwards, we would reuse our equipment. We would put most of our equipment through autoclaves, sterilizers. Now, no, you can't do that. You use it once, throw it away.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that now, though? When you can sterilize it?
Because of JACO and everything else that they want to control, hyper control. JACO's a big joke as far as I'm concerned. Joint commissions, they come in. Get this: the hospitals have got to pay JACO to come in and brutalize them over policies, and then do the policy. Now, were there hospitals that before that were slacking off big time? Yes, there were. But this pendulum has swung too far the other way. And Frosty, this is more your ball wax than it is mine. You know how this system works.
Oh my gosh.
My wife is her hospital. My wife runs 2 departments in 2 different hospitals, and she's the JACO rep. Well, it's just JC now. JACO's an old term for the Joint Commission Accreditation, hospital accreditation. But it's just Joint Commission now. But their hospital's top 100. But again, the problem is that it really depends on your reviewer. And what impacts your ability is more of the board at the hospital than the care being provided at the hospital, because the stuff that they don't spend money on, for instance, when they do sterile processing, if they go cheap on the packs, those packs may rip or have little micro tears in them. So you may have to use 3 to 4 times the amount of equipment in order to have good sterile packs for a surgery. If you have, when Tiger has to wear, his tan skin gloves, and he has to wear them up to the elbow. If your hospital's cheap and they only want to buy the ones that come up mid-size in certain processes, or when you're doing certain cleaning or things of that nature, dealing with certain procedures like maybe a knee or a hip surgery, you need to be covered probably up to your shoulder, or you run the risk of infecting. And the more things that you skim on, the more insurance is charged for coverage. So your board can really affect your bottom line. So I won't get into the argument of Joint Commission, because I see the good and bad in it, because if we don't challenge it, people don't know where they can improve. But to anything in that situation, whether it be a financial board that comes through to review a bank's finances, whether it's an external audit, anytime you're doing something external, it's a good idea for process improvement. But your facility has a lot of hand in how good or how bad that goes. So, but yeah, there's a lot of different things in healthcare that can do this. But I want to ask a question. So I'm going to kind of get back to the debate. We kind of talked a lot about policy and personal opinion and stuff. There was a question, and this is one of the things that I caught, because they were talking about the Kool-Aid. Pistol packing pilot will love that analogy, because he knows exactly what's happening.
Yeah,
Kool-Aid. What's the Kool-Aid? You mean the clot shot?
Yes. So he was saying, well, I got the ventilators. And actually, that wasn't a good thing.
No.
But at the time, they thought it was, right? I mean, it wasn't.
A ventilator's what caused my dad to die.
I'm not a doctor, but just I watched Chris Manderson, Peak Prosperity, because he spent like a whole year talking about it, and it was very easy to find out that's the worst thing you want to do to COVID damaged lungs is to pressurize them.
But what I'm asking though, and this is just a question, I don't know. Did we know that at the time?
Yes,
we did. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the remdesivir and respirators was a death sentence for hundreds of thousands of people.
Warp speed.
Well, hold on a second now. I mean, now Trump was just following what his advisors were telling him. By his advisors, I'm referencing Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
But if he's such a smart dude, wouldn't you do your own research? I mean,
like
you said, you're not a doctor, and neither is Donald Trump. He's not a doctor either. So he was doing the best with what he had at the time. And yes, I mean, let's remember, I get it. Donald Trump initiated Operation Warp Speed, which, in my opinion, was one of the worst things that could have ever happened. But again, at the time, I don't believe he knew what. I mean, it came on so fast, and the only thing he was doing was leaning on the people that he thought were going to advise him in the right manner. And now we know that Dr. Fauci, I use the term doctor loosely, by the way, Fauci killed a lot of people, as did many people who were advising him. So I don't think we can crucify Donald Trump for trying to get all these ventilators and initiating Operation Warp Speed, because he was at the beginning of the scamdemic. I mean, I'm sorry, the pandemic.
But the Warp Speed thing had more to do with funding than it had to do with anything else. I mean, the mRNA stuff was already developed. It was already done. Like, it was, to me, it almost looks like it was a money laundering scheme. And
It
I'm not
was
saying
it was
Donald Trump-
already done, and
I'm not saying
never
he did a
rolled
money
out.
laundering scheme. I'm just saying that there was already stuff there created. People were advising him that, hey, we should go with this. This is the technology we're going to use. Fauci was doing the same thing. That's your cabinet. That's your advisors. Those are the people that are the experts. And if you can't trust them, then you have a problem.
And the technology was never successfully tested. We were the test.
Oh, we've never dealt with anything like this before.
And if you look at that technology, I had to look at it very closely. It's a technology that was more created for something like cancer, where you're trying to stop something that's replicating by replicating something else, but you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot of issues there. But the way I look at it, even with Trump's first presidency, he's using a lot of the same cabinet that people have used in the past. He didn't go pick all his own advisors. So that always becomes kind of muddied water. This go around, I think if he's president, he's probably going to pick a whole new cabinet, and it's going to be a different story. But to your point on that, I think, a lot of it comes down to how you try to put these things together, and you do with the best knowledge you have. None of these candidates are going to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could give him ignorance on the warp speed, not knowing what was going on. I can give you that. But, when he came in the first time, he was already going to drain the swamp. And
Yeah,
my question would be now, if he gets back in, would he fire Dr. Fauci? Would he actually, because he was going to put Hillary in jail.
He's already said he wants Congress to bring charges up against Dr. Fauci. He's publicly stated that.
Well, he was going to put Hillary in jail. And I mean, to me, that's why I think, like Tiger was talking about, who was the president that talked about the military industrial complex way back in the day. And I think,
no, that was not JFK. That was Ike.
That was
Ike.
Right.
JFK talked about the cabal. Yeah.
Right. And then JFK talked about the cabal and got a ricocheting projectile. So, to me, we know the system's been taken over. The people who have tried to warn us and do something about it have gotten taken out. Now, I know that, just to me, it's been a long time in place, I guess, is what I'm saying. And to me, I think they use this mechanism of which side are you going to vote for? Because it gives you that little bit of hope. Like, yes, of course, I hope that the lesser of the communist aspects prevails here. But I mean, I can't to me, it's so corrupted so long ago. If you look, like, once it gets corrupted, that's why we have these arguments about, well, can we trust our health care? Can't we do better? It's because our very Constitution is no longer followed. Like, I needed to highlight this video. I didn't do it, but there's a court case out where a cop had pulled over this car, basically did an illegal search and seizure and seized his gold. And they're saying, even though they had basically no probable cause, there was no proof, on and on, the dog falsely signaled for drugs, there was no drugs, it could be thrown out a million times, but they're saying, we want to keep this gold, basically, was the answer. So we need to keep in place this civil forfeiture law that we put in place that basically eradicates the constitutional, you're free to travel without having your stuff searched and seized. And once the corruption gets in, it seeps all the way down into your, law enforcement. And that's how, because all these wars that we're fighting right now, Constitution, we're not even supposed to be warring unless they invade. Like, we have an invasion now, but we're not doing anything there. But we're in all these other countries. Like, we're so far from the original intent that I feel it's, we've already been overtaken, and now it's just kind of keeping us distracted while they bring in these computer programs to track us and trace us, and to me, that's a bigger game at play.
I got disenfranchised when the Homeland Security got created and when they put in the Patriot Act.
Exactly.
That, to me, that's when I left that party. I couldn't
Yeah,
believe
if
my
you
party put
look-
that stuff forward.
If you've looked into Building 7 and the whole 9/11 thing, then yeah.
And I'm more of a constitutionalist than anything. It's not a very organized party, but I believe the Constitution next to the Bible is the strongest and inspired document on the planet here. And the honest truth is, if you believe that way, the Second and First Amendment are about gone. You take out the Second Amendment, you can take out the First. You
There
get
you
rid
go.
of those two. We're no better off than a monarchy at that point.
Monarchy would be turned into a banana republic, which they're already trying to do. But
And so we're hanging by a thread right now, Tiger. I mean, it's like
we are.
We either fix the Constitution or it's going to be gone and we're going to be something different.
Let me go ahead and interject something here. Frostbyte put in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Frosty. Swear jar. You can use the big toe. So loosely, Tiger. He's telling me to ease up on the big toe. 949 became a Tiger Cub member. Thank you so much, 949. And also I want to reiterate into what I said earlier. I am not going to filter what anyone comments in here as long as it's respectful. You're allowed an opinion. I believe in the First Amendment. As long as you're respectful, then I'm not going to allow for Trump only or Kamala only comments. So I just want to point that out to you. The other thing is that if I see anyone else cutting people out based upon what their viewpoint is, I will remove your wrench. If they're seriously out of whack, saying horrible things, curse words, bad language, whatever, yeah, go ahead and use the wrench. If you're using it to control the conversation, I will take away your wrench. So please keep that in mind, my friends. Enough said.
I just want to make a comment about him trying to put Hillary into jail. Now, that was over those emails, those classified emails. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of that because I don't think anybody really will, but it was exactly similar to what they were trying to do with what they found at Mar-a-Lago. So,
Snoopy Stacks is a member for 10 months. Thank you, Snoopy.
That's my channel. You ain't even been around for 10 months, cheesy.
How did it come across his mind then?
Because we're dual streaming, dude.
Oh, is that how that's working? Now
I figured that out. I was like, oh, I just saw Frosty come up on my live streams too. And I was like, oh, I found the other cat.
I lost my mind. Oh, my goodness.
You
Frosty,
have lost
where's my Starbucks?
No,
Yeah,
it's all good.
I only keep track of one chat too. There's two going, and I can only follow the one. I try to follow both, but I can't. So,
well, I was going to stream this both vertical and landscape, but I was like, man, that'd really cost Tiger some to do. So
Vertical and landscape.
So I've got a question for the panel. What I see right now is a very, very divided country with two different belief systems. I see one belief system that's following one candidate, one belief system that's following the other candidate. Is there a belief that at some point we need to come back together, or can this country function going forward as two different countries with two different beliefs?
Yankee, what's up, brother?
Hey, Yankee, welcome.
I think that we can find common ground. We just need to stop and chill out and talk to one another and not be disrespectful and find that common ground.
Yankee, if you want to come up on panel, I sent you a link.
He may be down in the basement. Is there somebody down in the basement?
I might be. Hold on. Hello. We're visited by a biggin.
Boy, here we go.
What's up, Yankee?
Hey, guys.
Up the whale.
You've been down there a while. I heard the bonk when you came in, but
You did. I know. It's kind of funny. I'm sitting there like, I'm in the basement. They don't want to let me in.
I'm in the basement, literally.
Oh, that's cool. I should be in bed. I should be in bed. That's what I need to. I need to get Mrs. Yankee to the airport tomorrow morning. So I need to get. I can't stay long, guys. I'm sorry.
if you don't mind, I would like to deviate that question to Yankee. So, Surfer, you'll love this. Surfer, if you'll reiterate the question to Yankee, I think it's a great question. I have my viewpoints on it, but I'd like him to answer.
So I'll try to rephrase. I'll try to restate it. So Yankee, here's my question. Right now, it seems like we have a very, very polarized country. One side is very much on Trump's side. The other side is very much on Harris's side. I don't even think it's necessarily two political parties. I think it's two different ideologies. Can this country survive if we continue to divide ourselves that way, or does this country have to pull back together to some kind of a common ground going forward?
Great question. I've been mulling this over for a long time now. In my 58 years, I've never seen it like this. And what comes to mind for me is the words from our great president, Abraham Lincoln, when he was quoting scripture, when he said that any kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. You cannot be divided within the same house. At some point, you either come together and unite or you completely fall apart. And I heard Kamala Harris multiple times saying the platitude that there's more that unites us than divides us. That's just a phrase, catchphrase. What I see is more dividing us, unfortunately, across social, economic, moral, and political lines and ideologies. And it's getting worse and worse. And I'm trying not to be pessimistic here, but I'm being a realist. Unless this country gets back to the foundations by which it was created, and I'm talking on a spiritual level primarily, but also on a constitutional level, in other ways as well, we are not going to survive. It is pure hubris to think that we will survive if we do not get back. And I, as a Christian and an unabashed Christian here, I will say that the only hope is in Jesus Christ and a full revival in this country. Now, you don't have to agree with me on that, but that's where I stand. And I believe that unless that happens first, morally, the rest is just painting, lipstick on a pig or whatever you want to call it. It's not going to solve the root problem.
Very eloquently said.
I've got to go, so my battery's nearly dead, but I'm just going to interject. I think the way forward is for us as individuals and everyone as individuals to do what we can in our own homes, in our own community. And we've got to give less power and less attention to these politicians who, most of them are of little character, little substance, little intelligence. They're not the ones that are going to pull this nation around. And I think there is more that unites us than divides us as a nation. I love this country, the people I deal with from all walks of life. It's a tremendous country. I think the divisions get magnified by the media because they love it's clickbait. It gets attention. I think if you got a group, if you picked a random group of Americans and put them together and gave them a problem to solve, they would work together and solve it. So I am hopeful that we will take less notice of our politicians and put less hope in them. And as a Christian as well, I would say, yeah, ultimately our hope and our trust should be in the Trinity, in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But you can't impose that on people who haven't got that faith and belief system. But there still is more. I would say there is more that unites this country than divides. If we actually looked for the common objectives, most people just want to have a reasonable lifestyle, to be fed, to be clothed, to be housed, and have a reasonable job, have a reasonable car. Most people don't want to do that at the cost of by climbing over anybody else either. So I think we, in a way, we need to give less weight and less importance, and that's the way the way you drain the swamp is to give it less attention.
I actually agree with most of what you said there. I really do. I love it. Can I just, because I'm going to have to go pretty quick. Did you guys discuss the debate a lot? and I missed it all. Can I give you my 2 cents on it before I split?
Yeah, please
Yep.
do.
It's going to pain me to say this, guys. And I know I'm not going to be endearing myself to MAGA and those who really love Trump. But Kamala Harris actually won that debate. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. She won it by not having a political seizure on the stage like Biden did. Okay. Everybody, she didn't have a very high bar to cross. She won it by limiting her word salad. I only caught about 2 in the whole thing. And I was ready for her to just go bonkers on that. So she limited that. She won it by making the focus on Trump, not on her.
I agree.
Which it should have been. 100%. She should have been beaten with her own policies and her own past. Just beaten to a pulp. She won it by dodging the answers to the questions given to her by the moderators.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
The battle was a 3-on-1 battle here, guys. We know that. But she won it. She won it by she probably won it by learning what the questions were going to be in the first place. But that's neither here nor there. But she won it by. But she won it. Here's this too. She won it by letting the moderators gang up on Trump for her and cutting him off all the time. Okay. And the final thing is, I think she won it by baiting Trump. This is his Achilles heel, whether it be COVID-19, what you did, or your daddy's inheritance, or what the Wharton School thinks of you, or January 6th, or the election results, or your indictments, or whether I'm black or not. All this stuff is complete noise, but it was all calculated bait, okay, to trap him and get him to lose his cool, which sometimes he did, but most of the time he didn't, but to eat up the time on the clock and to avoid being called out on her policies. Now, he did rightly call her a Marxist. That was great. He did stress that, Kamala's been in the office for 3.5 years and she could have enacted all the things she's talking about now. Of course, that was in his closing argument, not in the beginning. That should have been right out of the gate. And then I really think he had a hard time keeping from being petty. And it should have been border, economy, border. He started to do it, but he should have kept coming back to those. Those are the themes that the country cares about more than anything. And anytime, Kamala brought up abortion or wanted to go down a different path, it was really to avoid those 2 things.
Oh, yeah. It was all about social this, social that, and God forbid the protection of our country, the protection of our economy, the reinstatement of us becoming a producing nation, and she avoided by using socialism.
And she used it by having him eat up the clock about flailing. He was on the defensive most of the night. He should have been on the offensive, but that was part of the plan. So I think she was schooled well, trained well, prepped well. I think she did better than most people thought she would, which is a win for Kamala. I can't stand saying that, but it's true. And I saw the odds makers and all that in Vegas. They've already said it, right? So anyway, I think 2 things. One, I think the mainstream media is going to just now completely bestow sainthood on this woman and say she's God's gift to this country and everything, right? To a nauseating degree. And I think we got to just hang on there because I don't think the race is over. I think Trump can still win. I think the battleground states are still in place. So it's going to be a tight race, but that's how I scored it tonight.
I think I agree with you. I think Frosty agreed with you. But I do have a question for you, Yankee, about the overall of the debate. You there?
And that is.
Are you trying to tell us that you believe that the whole debate was rigged?
Oh no! I knew it. I walked right into it. The moment I said, "What is that?" I knew where you're going.
I knew it was going there.
I knew it.
Love you, Yankee.
I love you too, buddy. All right, I'll split, guys. Thanks for letting me pop in here. I need to get to bed.
Thanks for coming out, Yankee.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate you so much.
No problem, guys. Take care.
Later,
Right. I'm sorry for leaving you in the basement.
But I think to Yankee's point, Tiger, that as far as who wins these debates, I mean, there's going to be a lot of commentary on that, but it's going to be, did it sway people to go towards one candidate or the other? That's what these debates are really for. That's what it comes down to.
Exactly. What makes me frightened, now, I've said this loads and loads of times. It's in my videos, it's in my live streams, and you all pretty much know. I'm not a Trump lover. I'm not a Trump hater. I believe that he is the only one that can get us out of the crap that we're in. I think he's the only decent candidate. And some of you may not agree with me, and that's okay, because our Constitution allows you to have your opinion, to speak your opinion, and I've not taken away anyone's ability to talk. But basically, I also agree that this debate was rigged, because she will not face him on equal territory. Face him on mutual territory. So, that's that. But, I don't think that there's any other decent choice, in my opinion, to put in office to get us out of the garbage that we're in. So, enough said. Next.
If I can say one thing, I'm gonna wrap things up. I've got an early day tomorrow, but if I can say one thing, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look in chat. I want you to look at the panel. I want you to think about the discussion that's been had tonight. This is what America needs. People of different opinions who, despite having those different opinions, can come together, share their thoughts and ideas, say what they think. And I'm going to pick on my friend Snoopy, love her to death. I know exactly how she feels. She's been very polite and kind today. She's very opinionated. She knows exactly how she stands. And she's been very quiet, listening to people and letting people talk and explaining why her thought is a certain way. I've seen on the other end people who are hardcore Trump enthusiasts who have stood by this and have been respectful and have been kind, and we've allowed for great conversation. Our nation needs this. I have said, if you have listened, if you haven't done it, on the 4th of July, I read the Constitution. And the one thing that I said to everybody at that time is, if we can do anything as a people to help our nation, it's agree to disagree. We do not have to be right all the time. And just because you believe something doesn't mean I have to believe it. But through talking, through having these conversations, what I get to do and what you get to do is to listen to the ideas and opinions and maybe, just maybe, learn something you didn't know before. Maybe you'll have something from a little bit different viewpoint that goes, well, it's not going to change my mind, but I never thought of it that way. And maybe it gives you a definition of a question that you can ask in a different way. And so I want to thank each one of you for, Snoopy's like, I was only timed out once. I want to thank each one of you for coming in. And when Tiger was talking about this, him and I were talking about the situation and talking what was going on and what we wanted to do. We thought about streaming during the live stream or during the actual debate. And it's like, no, you know what? Let's just let it happen and then we can discuss afterwards. But I've been watching chat on my channel and on Tiger's, watching the things that are coming across. We had to make one little change in action, not a big deal. But we have 50, 60 people between the two chats, and we all got along. And if we can come to ground on common terms like this and understand that as a people, we need to do things that help our nation, we might not agree with every ounce of policy on the other party. But if we really do things to protect our nation, then we can make a change. But it's not going to be easy. But we can do it one little group like this at a time. So I want to thank you all for being here. Tiger, thank you for allowing me to come up and hanging out with you guys. Nick, good to see you.
No eye rolls tonight either.
Say again?
No eye rolls.
I think we got one in there.
Where? No.
Yeah.
The Pistol Packing Pilot, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming up. Invisible River, I think this is the quietest I've ever heard you. It was nice. Just kidding, brother. Just kidding. But again, it was
Wow.
really great to see
That was
everybody.
awesome.
It was good to see
Complete
everybody
opposite.
and to just have a great conversation. So I want to thank you all because this is how we change our nation. By coming
Well, Frosty,
together.
I think you said one thing that I'd recommend everybody does too, and that's if you guys haven't get familiar with what the Constitution is, it's the law of the land. If you don't like it, you can change it. That's what's great about the Constitution. And if you don't know it, it's time to start to understand it because you're going to start to understand why people have different opinions and different philosophies on things. And you'll start to understand why we have things like a First and a Second Amendment, why those are important.
I think that's a good panel. There, Ian's back.
There he's back.
I was enjoying it too much.
Well, I'd like to hear more from you next time too on how you think things are different over here too.
I just want to repeat, I am really encouraged. The more Americans I meet, we are better than our politicians. Neither of the candidates are fit for the job that is ahead. They're not going to do. I mean, if they were really serious about wanting to do the best for the country, there'd be a coalition. They would join together, and the best of both parties would get the roles that are needed. We wouldn't have this division, and this division goes way back to. You've probably heard me many times quote Montague Norman in his speech, 1924, where he says, "We will allow the population to have their political parties, so they expend their energies fighting over matters of no importance, whilst we form an imperialism to rule the world."
There you go.
The division is provoked, whether it's political, whether it's race, whether it's gender, you name it. The more you can divide a population, the less actually aware of what's going on and can start doing something about it. So,
and I would like to add, I agree with all that. I just want to add one quick point about just the ongoings, the debates, and there's just so little truth coming out that I find there. But what's funny is you can always often catch their double speak, and you shouldn't be double-minded. And so when Kamala is saying, I found it interesting that she had, I don't know, it was 5 or 15 laureate prize-winning people who endorsed, I don't know, her policy or something. But it's funny that she's saying a laureate winner. Now, I don't know what that is or how prestigious it is, but I just, isn't it we're all supposed to be equal and everybody gets a gold star and we all finished first in the race and everybody's equal? Well, then why do you need a laureate? Did everybody get a laureate just because they attended school and we got to be equal to everybody? Why are you choosing someone a laureate? Oh, they're more special. Did they have more credit for some? I thought, that's not even supposed to exist in what they believe in yet. That they lean on it when it's good for them, but then turn their back on it when it's not. There's so much of that.
They're speaking with forked tongue.
Yeah.
No, but to what Ian's saying, though, guys, I mean, the most important, no one can take this country, no one can fight this country if the whole country is together and united.
Yeah,
we haven't had that since the 50s, to be honest, and that's the problem. So we have to get that fixed in this country. And the problem is it's much better if you do it on your own than if we have to wait for something that pulls us all together, which is usually a war.
Yeah, the last time I saw pull together was during 9/11.
I did too. I lived in Manhattan at the time, and it was very much sad, but people were pulled together. The problem is it didn't last very long.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, but
I'll tell you what, I remember I was sitting in the dentist chair on 9/11, and I watched it on a TV screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I put my hand to the chest of the dentist, and I pushed him away. And I was like, is this for real? And one of the girls was like, Well, we're watching the news. It's not a movie. It's like on every channel. Like she had no concept of what was actually happening. And I think what happened at that time, and we've seen all sorts of chaos since that time frame, is this was the first time Americans realized that we were vulnerable.
Yes.
Generally
Yes.
vulnerable. The last people that really recognized that was Pearl Harbor.
But what
We had
about
a
93
whole
though?
generation-
They tried in 93 but didn't succeed. So we should have realized how vulnerable we were then.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but again, a lot of people didn't even understand that the attack on the World Trade Center during that time frame.
Okay.
They really didn't understand what was happening then. This was a massive coordinated attack. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I did like, and that was I was not in the military during that time frame, and I was planning to try, deciding whether or not I was going in, or excuse me,
Are you driving the bottom screen, Tiger?
I am.
yeah, he is.
Yeah, well, I put it in there. I
I
don't
was
know if
already out of the military. I'm sorry.
the screens, guys. Snoopy.
But
be nuts.
I had drove down the street, and every house in my community, every house had an American flag. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, whatever. Folks, I bled for my nation. Right? I take my national pride very, very seriously. Anybody who knows it's in my channel knows that I am big on vets, first responders, police, the people who are out there trying to protect our way of life. And that includes caregivers for veterans, because there's a lot of veterans who are in need of care, and those people who protect and save our vets are, a lot of people say, well, I couldn't serve. There are other ways to serve our nation than just being a first responder or a vet. But it was at that time where I had national pride, like true national pride, where everybody had the flag. And it wasn't just a thing to do. Everybody was seriously pulling together for the betterment of our nation. Not to say we need another catastrophic event of that nature, but we need that kind of collaboration as a nation once again. I think that's the only thing that'll really shift us. Now, is that going to help the stuff with the Fed and budgetary and all that stuff? No, there's a whole lot of other things that have to happen for that. But we need to come together as a people.
Well, it depends on how we come together and for what reason. If we come together because of an attack or a war or something like that, you're coming together as a people. If people realize that our monetary system's garbage, we could come together for sound money. And if that happens, things could really materially start to change. If that doesn't happen, though, I think we're going to have a lot of our brothers and sisters in this country wake up one day and their money is going to be so debased. The rest of us are probably going to have to step in and help them.
Yeah.
Well, we're either going to have to help them or they're going to rob from us. I'd rather, teach them how to handle.
I'd rather help them.
I'd rather teach them how to raise their own food and get their own water than have to put a bullet in them. But, I remember exactly where I was on 9/11. Believe it or not, I was in a gun store. I was buying guns and preparing to buy ammo, and that happened, and I emptied my bank account. I became just like our co-host here, and loaded up, and been loading up ever since. Ever since my son and I used to go target shooting, and I'd tell him to leave the ammo in the basement. Why, Dad? So we're going to buy it at the store. But that's a waste of money. No, it's not. Leave it in the basement. And we don't have any. We don't use them all up. It goes in the basement. And I repeated that because it added to the stack. And I don't want to use it. I'm a person who was trained to take life very seriously and to save lives if at all possible. I will take a life if I have to, but I don't want to. I'm a doctor first, not a person who enjoys taking lives. Heck, I even hate taking a bunny's life. I sit there and feel sick for a day or two. But the bottom line is, when our compatriots in our compatriots who are completely drinking the Kool-Aid, start waking up, it's going to be a nightmare. All this ideas of woke this and liberal that and critical race theory, it won't mean squat if you don't have food on your table or a roof over your head or water in the basin. It won't mean squat.
Good night, friends.
Oh,
good night.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but good night.
Good night, Nick.
Good
Good
night.
night. I'm probably gonna bounce out of here, Tiger, as well. I just wanted to just say one thing. I bet you I'm the only guy who was actually flying on 9/11.
I bet so.
So yeah, it's something every year. I don't think in fact, I know I'm not friends with any of you guys on my personal Facebook, but every year up until about a few years ago, I would post on my personal Facebook uh, something very near and dear to my heart about 9/11, something that um, was, pretty emotional, pretty thought provoking. And I stopped doing that a couple of years ago, and I'm going to tell you why. I would always say for the better part of 2 decades, we always said never forget, right? Never forget 9/11, never forget. I know I'll never forget. But the problem is, we always say that on 9/11, but the rest of the year, the other 364 days out of the year, we all forget. None of us remember. And we do so by the politicians that we support and the policies that those politicians make. And then somebody said it earlier, and I'm waiting for you to get a channel strike for this word being sit on your channel, Tiger, because it's probably worse than an F-bomb. But I heard somebody, I don't remember who it was, I heard someone mention Building 7.
No, that
And
sorry.
and as a professional airline pilot for the better part of 2 decades, I refuse to buy into the so-called conspiracy theory. And I'm saying this now, obviously, because now it is past midnight and it is 9/11. And it breaks my heart after all of the research that I've done to really know what the truth is. And I'm not going to go into detail on that here. Um, but I've definitely done my share of research, and the official story about Building 7 doesn't hold water. I have friends of mine who are structural engineers. It holds no water. So they can sell that story to the bulk of ignorant Americans who don't want to do their own research and do their own homework and dig into the facts, and that's fine. But because of that, because of the fact that Americans have forgotten, and because of the fact that I feel like now I do know the truth behind 9/11, because of that, I've stopped. And it almost breaks my heart that I have stopped posting those things every 9/11. But we're a different world now than what we used to be. Our world is changing worse and worse by the day. And earlier, when Yankee was on here and Yankee was talking, he said something that struck me, and he mentioned about bringing Christ back into the country. And you know, all of the mass shootings that we have now, we didn't have those in the 1960s. And the AR-15, that evil assault weapon, that thing existed in the 1960s. So what changed? The gun didn't change. We changed. So you have to start asking yourself, what changed with us? And I think a lot of it is very simple. I mean, we've taken God out of the school systems. We've taken God out of our families.
Yeah.
And we've essentially just just sat back and watched as the degradation of the American family just continues to get worse and worse.
A
So,
big a big sociological change is when there's no longer believing grandparents. So there's now no one in the family that has an active and a deep and a real meaningful faith and a moral code that goes beyond one's personal truth. So once that is lost, people are lost, and that there are no less constraint on doing crazy things.
Yeah. Once on Sunday, I have I put out one of my a short video, and it's one of my worst performing videos, and it's about my priorities in life and about my faith in Jesus Christ. It did horribly. It was only shown to 350 people.
I
And
liked it.
it was good, but it's YouTube, right? YouTube's not really pushing the religious stuff.
Oh no.
And you know, I've got nearly, I think, 9,100 subscribers or so, and very few of them even saw that, and it didn't show it to anybody new. I didn't expect a whole lot out of it, but you know, it goes down to the priorities of your life and the people we have. I served a couple years in inner city, a religious mission when I was young, and I met very few people that were in the nuclear family. It was a bunch of single moms raising a bunch of kids, and they did not have a lot of money. They were on welfare, and there's a lot of messes that are there. But when we have a lot of people that are growing up without a mom and a dad, and my heart goes out to the dads and the moms that are single, that are doing their best to try to pull it together and raise kids. But when that family unit's not there, there's a reason we were put together that way. And without that family unit, you run into the kids not being able to get a full gambit of the female and the masculine side of life. And then when you lose the respect of morality, your morality starts to change. And that's honestly where I think we've got a lot of the issues in the country. You know, anybody I talk to that hates the U.S. Constitution and thinks it's getting in their way has lost some of that morality. Now, that's not to say the Constitution doesn't need some upgrading and some clarification. Obviously, you know, I don't think the Second Amendment means everybody should have nuclear weapons. But, you know, if you read it very strictly, some people will say there is no limits to anything. But there's definitely things that could be updated. But to your point, Ian, I think a lot of, and also along with coins, I think a lot of it goes back down to priorities. And I think it goes down to, you know, getting back to the roots of it. I mean, this country was founded upon freedom of religion, but it was founded upon Christianity principles. So that doesn't mean it's a Christian nation. It means it's a nation that followed Christian principles. And we're not doing that so much as a country anymore. And as we get away from that, you start to, in my opinion, lose the blessing of God.
Yeah.
And then we get a lot of the problems that we have now. And so I'm hoping we can repent and come back from that before we have to be humbled. You guys will see that all the time in the scriptures. You either humble yourself or you be humbled.
Yeah.
And being humbled is a lot uglier than humbling yourself.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. Pistol Packing Pilot, I wanted to mention to you, I really appreciated your videos on the jabs.
Thank you.
I know that took for me that would have, well, I haven't done videos on it, right, because I'm too scared. But I mean, to me that was a very big topic, and in my family I've been on the you know, I've been fighting that for a while, even before the whole vids thing broke out. I was already on the anti side, so when warp speed came along, that really, it was hard on me to see that, you know, being rushed out at that speed when I was already terrified of it. But yeah, I appreciate you speaking out, and also on the building 7, it sounds like you've found out some of the things that I found out, and that's you know, because, and I want, like, you know, I don't want you to think that I'm coming off against Trump, you know. I just like you, it's very hard when you look into some of those things, and I desperately want you know, I wish that things would get turned around and communism would go away and our freedoms would come rolling back to us. But I also want to not, sometimes I notice myself building a box to fit my world's logic into my box so I can sleep at night. And I think that's foolish of me to do. And the more I can remove my box to help me sleep at night, the closer I think I get to reality. And I think we do need to be real, and that comes back. We're all talking about our morals and whatnot, and yeah, I think that's kind of the issue. And you were, Surfer was just saying we were based on a Christian.
Yeah.
And that's true for, you know, a large part of it, but you also want to consider we're also based on the Judaism, as well. Like, you know, Christians came out of, you know, we you know, for the Jews, they don't look at the New Testament and they think that's all not real. For me, I do, but it's Christians, kind of a continuation of the Old Testament, the way I view it.
Yeah,
So
it's the Ten Commandments, right? It's going back to the Ten Commandments. It's going back to worshiping of the same God. But you know, there's some slight differences there. But
yeah, and that's just kind of, you know, there's several cultures, like that's a lot of history there, I guess, and why I say I like the Constitution is because it's like you said, it's so much based off of biblical, both Christian and Judea things that came from the Bible, and also that I would say ties into common and natural law, because, you know, for those of, you know, for like me who believes God made this place, I think that everything ties together, and so that we can't escape the reality of how it is, and it's us blocking out these realities that it has got it. You know, we didn't rely on all those truths but you notice how when they wrote it, they said these are self-evident.
Yeah.
Not that, you know, well, we're writing this down now so that we have it here. It's like, no, they're just talking about natural things that should be and are, and that's where I think they had an understanding of reality that has like been washed away by years of public schooling, which is, you know, I think been taken over and corrupted, and that's why we have these laureates that subscribe to this new, you know, this new theology and whatnot. So yeah, I guess I rambled on long enough, but
Well,
definitely.
but with what you're saying too, though, last thing I'll just say, and then I got to run too. To your point, if you look at the Constitution as well, not everybody agreed the same way. It's kind of like the panel and also the discussion in here, like Snoopy Stacks and everybody else that's in here. There's differing opinions of things, right? They came together as a country. Some of them wanted to have a very, very strong central government. Others wanted to have a very, very weak one. And so we had this fight between little states and big states, and states versus federal. Even the monetary system. I'm still listening to The Creature from Jekyll Island. That is like the longest book ever, but it's great. And there's so much good information that's in there. But you look at all of this country has come together to be a melting pot. A lot of my ancestors came over on the Mayflower. I've got 16 of them that came over. And, you know, they were saved by the Native Americans that were here. Otherwise, they would have all died. They wouldn't have survived. They didn't have enough provisions. They landed way far north. And so there's even a lot of mixing with Native Americans that were here. And then there's the travesties that happened from that whole situation. But I think the reality is if we can come together as a nation, we can fix this place, right? We can bring things back. We can get to the point where everybody is able to feel like they've got more freedom, even those that may not like everything that's, you know, here. My biggest hope is that we can do that. If we can't do that, then I think we end up having a completely different country, or we end up having two countries, or we end up having, you know, something worse. And so that's a lot of what I kind of look at when I look at these debates and I look at the politics of what are going on, is I'm trying to find who do I think is going to help get the country on the right track. And to Ian's point, I don't know that any one of these candidates are going to be able to do that. They may help us not get any worse. They may be able to help fix certain elements of it, but you know, I'm not seeing someone that's coming in and describing how to fix everything that I believe in, right? And to his point, I think this is the last point I wanted to make is it really goes back to you and me and the local level.
Yeah,
this whole entire government was based on the whole fact that we were supposed to have really small counties. Mm-hmm. And every time a county got to a certain size, they would break off and create a new county. We stopped doing that. And now the county I live in has 3 million people, which is way too big. I can't have a voice in my county. I can in my city, but I can't in my county. And so how many of us are, you know, involved in city politics? How many of us are involved in, you know, trying to pull those other things? So, you know, we got to get involved in our understanding of things, of who we're voting for, the politics based on our beliefs. If we don't, and we just leave it up to the big politicians, they're going to drive this, and they don't have the same objectives that that each individual does.
Well, I can add into there on that, if I may, please. Before Christianity, the Jewish people were God's chosen people. And in the book of Revelations, it talks about the 144,000 Jewish people who will lead other people to Christ. Therefore, there will be, and there I believe there already are, Jewish people who have accepted Christ as their Savior. And, this country was founded on the Judeo-Christian belief, and was founded on the desire to have the religious freedom to worship the way that they choose to. So, well, those who don't believe that this is still a Christian nation, I disagree with you wholeheartedly. This country was founded on those values. It should stay founded on those values. In my opinion, if further we get away from God, the closer we get into the deeper aspects of Revelations. And I'm certainly not the biggest scholar of the Bible. I wish I was, but I'm not. But the important point is that this country needs to stay as it was originally put together by our founding fathers. They have seen the corruption of people having more power than others, and took advantage of other people during that period of time. And history is going to repeat unless we intervene. So I agree with a lot of what you're saying. So enough of what I said. I think I got my point across. Next.
So there was a question in chat, and this is, I've heard this question before, and it was from Ron Helton. Was Virginia founded on religion or profit? The answer is profit. It's not religion. If you look back at Jamestown, was founded from the desire to gain wealth. Now, it was the local Christians that did that, but Jamestown was founded for wealth. A lot of the colonies that were founded, the reason that the Americas were founded was wealth. So when we talk about the foundation of Judeo-Christian, yes, that is one of the aspects that
It's the principle they followed.
Yes,
Beliefs
but
they had.
again, when we talk about this, remember, we are stackers, we are collectors, we are protectors of our financial freedoms, right? What we want is we want a nation to establish our own independence, right? We want to be reliant upon ourselves. We want to have a nation that's solid and steady and true. Again, a lot of people, there's a lot of people in the chat who are not Christian. They don't follow. They may be atheistic. And you know what? We understand that that's your viewpoint. That's fine. We hold certain truths to be self-evident, right? That's exactly what that says. Now, all men are created equal. It doesn't say all men are created in the image of God, although when you look at the intent of that, that was the intent. That was what the purpose of those words were meant for. Now, do you have to subscribe to Christianity? No, you do not. So I want to be very clear. I have my faith and my belief structure. I'm going to talk about my faith and my belief structure, but I'm not going to tell you what you have to choose and how you have to live. What I am going to do is I'm going to stand by my moral value. And sometimes I cross that line. You guys see me. I do goofy jokes and I get pretty raunchy at times. I'm human. It's who I am. But my fundamental core is this is who I am. But I'm not going to tell you how you have to be, right? I'm not going to expect you to say anything else. So I want you guys to understand that the people on panel are fervent in their belief. This is us speaking about what we believe. That does not mean you have to subscribe to it. Okay. So I want to be very clear on that. Now, if you want to know more about it, there's a whole bunch of people up here that you can talk to. But we're not going to require anything from any of you. So I want to be very clear. Okay. It is a choice, and that choice is yours. So again, we will talk about it because it's what we believe in. I think everybody on panel feels the same way. So again, stand where you are. Your life is your own, but just for the people that are here, just know where you're at. Know
And
where
then
we're
one thing
at.
just to add to that, Frostbite, because it's come up in the chat several times. Not all the founding fathers had the same strength of, or I should say, the same level of belief as others. Some were much stronger in their belief than others.
Yep.
Some of them have come from very strong families like the Puritans, where they had fled specifically because of religion. And so when this country was set up, it was not set up to follow a specific religion, nor was it set up to follow a specific church. But most of the founding fathers belonged to Christianity. Therefore, that was the principles and that was the guiding belief that they had. And so they really wanted to set this up as a place that allowed them to worship the way they wanted to worship. Now, I don't know if they could foresee everything and could see that we would have the melting pot here of just about every religion that's ever been on the planet. But when you look at separation of church and state, I think there's a couple different beliefs of that. But to me, it's really to not have a state church. They were trying to get away from Church of England and other things like that had a very prescriptive way of belief. And but the principles were still there. The 10 Commandments were still there. This is a land of laws. This is a land of belief, and like you said, if you don't believe in God, cool. This is a great place for you still, because there's no forcing you to believe that.
Well, folks, I just sprouted leaves out of my feet. The pumpkining has started.
They make something for that called soap, Frosty.
I've got to be up in 4 hours. So
yeah, I got to
I'm going
cruise
to
too.
make a night of this.
Yeah.
Hey, Snoopy, good to see you. I know you enjoyed my conversations because you put it in the chat every time. So I'm the young guy, I guess.
But honestly, like I said, I did not try to take out anyone's comments. I'm a believer in freedom of speech. I might not agree with you, but I agree with the fact that you're allowed to say what you need to say. And that's given to us by our Constitution. And I'm very much a believer that our founding fathers were right. And so I'm going to stick by that. And I think everyone here is getting a little tired. We're now at 2 hours and 17 minutes. If it's okay with everyone, unless someone has something else to say, I'm thinking we're probably getting to a point where everybody needs to go to sleep, get ready for the next day and all that. Does everyone there agree?
Agreed.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm going to call it a night, Tiger. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Nick.
Tiger.
Thank you, Yankee. Thank you, everyone that's here. I appreciate all of you. You're all my friends. Even if you don't share my opinion, I appreciate your ability to make your own choices in this world. But let's come together as a nation, okay? We don't have to agree with each other, but we have to protect this country from what's being proposed. And you might not share my opinion, and that's okay. But I think we really needed to voice our opinions about this presidential debate and that whole thing. So, I'm going to let everybody say goodbye, and I'll be the last one to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me, Tiger. It was a good conversation, everybody. Have an amazing night.
I appreciate you all. Pilot, I'm so grateful that you came up. I haven't seen you like forever, dude. You need to come down out of the clouds and come visit us on the ground every once in a while.
Yeah, I've been ghosting for a little while, but there might be some clarity on that Saturday.
Pistol Packing Pilot, I do want to talk to you. I'll give you a clue what it's about. 50 cents and go brick.
Say that again?
50 cents and go brick.
50 cents.
And go brick.
Oh.
I want to chat. I have an idea.
All right. Well, you know how to get a hold of me, Frosty.
Indeed. All right, folks, I got to go to bed. Y'all take care. Be well. Love y'all.
All right.
Appreciate y'all.
Right,
We'll see you.
Frosty. Long lived.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Tiger. Appreciate you. It's a good show.
Thank
Talk
you.
soon.
Good night,
Appreciate
everybody.
all of you. All right, everyone. Good night, everyone. Panel and Tiger is out.